Okay, one moment. Okay, good morning, everyone. For those just joining us, welcome. Welcome to today's workshop, Python and Pandas for beginners. Thank you for taking your time and being here today. Okay, the objective of this workshop are to perform creating, reading, writing data files. Second is to perform indexing, selecting, and assigning. The third objective is to use summary functions and maps. And fourth is to perform grouping and sorting. Okay, so now I would like to introduce our instructor today, TS Dr. Anbuselvan. He is a lecturer and trainer for the past 18 years. He is currently with the Department of Information System at Faculty of Information and Communication Technology, University Tunku Abdul Rahman, Utah. He completed his tertiary studies from University Putra Malaysia and University Technology Petronas. His field of interest is in computer science, particularly software development, database, and artificial intelligence. He is a certified HRDF trainer, and he has conducted various workshops for public and industry related to information technology. At a university, he is also a researcher focusing in the area of machine learning and data mining. He is also actively engages in international publication and conferences. In his research work and his supervision of student undergraduate project, the project work involve Python and Excel. Okay, before I pass the workshop to Dr. Anbuselvan, I would just like to remind you guys again, help us to sign in and sign out using the Google form. Okay, so now without further ado, I will turn the time over to Dr. Anbuselvan. Hi, doctor.
Hi, morning. Um, Thank you for the clear introduction. Just want to check with you all. Are you able to see me? Able to see me? Able to hear, right? Clear, right?
Yes, can see, can
Oh,
hear.
okay, all right. Right. Good morning to you all. Right. So have you taken your breakfast? Taken. All right. Because this one will last for the next 2 hours. So hopefully we'll be able to complete all the required things, right, in the materials, the content, right. So make sure you have the materials with you, right. So I have provided something for you, right. That will be a takeaway, a good takeaway, right, at the end of the session, right, in the PDF format, right. So even if you can't follow, you can at least, you can copy and paste, and then you can run in the what do you call the program, right, Jupyter notebook, right. So that is my intention, all right. Okay. So if you have, let me share my screen. Right. Are you able to see my screen? Okay. Right. Right. This is what you're supposed to have. This is the material, right, provided to you earlier. And the program that we will actually use for this workshop, right, will be Anaconda, right. So also I have actually provided the links, right, to install this program, right, Anaconda, right, and other links as well, right. So I do hope, right, all of you, right, have actually installed in your machines, right. If you are unable, right, for some reason, right, unable to install, right, you can always contact me later, all right. So for the next 2 hours, we will be focusing, right, on completing, right, the codes actually provided in the document, in the PDF file, right. Okay. Now, besides the material, right, besides the PDF file, I have also provided you, right, this file actually, right, is COVID data, right? .csv, right? And over here, right, we have a lot of records here. Okay, so I think I have about 85,000 records, right? Okay, so this is something like it is not actually dummy data, right? So it's real data. So the intention, right, for me actually, right, to provide you with such a large amount of data, right, to see really how, right, the pandas actually can work, right, can deal with large amount of data, right, in a CSV file, right? Okay. Now, maybe, right, before we go into the content, right, so let us talk about the purpose of the pandas, Python and so forth, right? Now, you already have Excel, right? And then you can also store data. So some of you, right, may be actually asking why we need to have pandas, why we need to work with Python, because I have the Excel file, I can store large amount of data, and then I can work on the data analysis, cleaning, and so forth, right? No, the problem here is, if you have you ever actually worked with opening Excel file, let's say 20 MB, large file size. Anyone experience, all right, or opening a Excel file, let's say 20 MB or 30 MB? Anyone? Now, if you open a large, all right, file size, right, Excel, all right, so what will happen is the system will crash. The Excel may actually crash, okay, or it will take such a long time, all right, for you to see the final output. It will take some time for the system, right, to load the file, right? So it'll be very, very irritating. But if you're just working with small file size, no issue at all, right? But we are talking here, right, large. Now, the Excel file, right, can store worksheet, right? In one worksheet can store about 1 million records, right? And then 16,000 rows, right? So if you have 5 worksheets, each worksheet, right, is capable of storing 1 million. So you have 5 worksheets, maximum you can go 5 millions. No issue about that. But what will happen to the file size? The file size actually will increase. And then when you want to open, when you want to do analysis, it will be really, will lead to frustration. All right. That is why in that situation, right, then we have to look for alternative, right, like Python, Pandas. All right. So when you work with Python, Pandas, right, no issue, right? You can work with large amount of data, right? No issues of crashing and so forth, right? As long you have sufficient memory, right, in your system, right? So that is the reason when working with large amount of data, right? All right. So let's look at the this the Excel file, okay, and we have several columns and several rows, right? So we're going to actually upload this shortly. Okay. Now this Anaconda, right, is a program. Why this Anaconda became very famous? Because it's like a dashboard, no? It is a program where you have other programs inside. You may have like Excel here, Word, and so forth. I'm just giving an example. So that is why people actually prefer to use Anaconda, because everything is here. The programs are here. So if you want to launch any program, for example, like Jupyter, right? So I'm going to launch this. Okay. Right. So you'll get to see something like this, Jupyter, right? And then see the local host 888 and so on, right? Okay. Now, this is the file that you have, all right, with you. I'm going to close this. Okay. Now, this file is actually on the desktop. Okay. This is on the desktop, right? Okay. And I want to work with that file. So I need to upload, right? So can you see that you have button here on the right hand side? You have upload. Okay. And I'm going to upload the file that is on the desktop. Click open and upload. So immediately, right, you will see that file is already uploaded, right? So COVID-19. So I'm going to click on this. So when I click this, right, I can actually scroll from the top to the bottom, right? Remember, right, when you store something into CSV, right, actually no issues. But if you are storing this into Excel program, then you will have some issues, right? Sometimes, you can't open because of the large file size, right? but this one no issue, right? But obviously, right, if you have like 1 million or 50 millions of records, right, it's not really practical, right, for you, like, to see all this data, right? Okay, so now we only have like 85,000, right? So you can see these are the records that you're going to work with shortly, right? Okay, so I'm going to close this. Right, so how to get started now, right? So in this material, right, there are two sections now, right? First, we will do the cleaning. So actually, I'm providing you a lot, lah, right? More than that actually specified objectives, right? So when you, after, completing this, right, you know exactly, right, the capabilities of Pandas, what exactly you can do with Pandas, right? Okay, all these requirements, hardware requirements. Okay, let's go through this, some concept of Pandas, right? Now, the Pandas, right, is actually is a ready-made thing. It's like a library, I would say, right? A ready-made library that allows you, right, to do some analysis, like to find the summation, all right, to count certain things, all right, to get the average, and then to draw charts, all right, just like how you have been doing in the Excel. All right, so in the Excel you can do summation, you can do the counting, you can do the aggregation, finding the mean, maximum, all those functions are there. And then also you can plot charts. All right, so the same thing actually you can actually do it in Pandas. So Pandas is like, it's like an Excel, it's a library, right? But this Pandas, right, is built using Python programming language. So nowadays, right, if you go to the supermarket, right, you'll see all, like, nowadays we are very smart now, right, in doing all the ready-made things. Like if you want to buy roti canai, right, instead of doing it by yourself from scratch, you have ready-made roti canai, right? So you can just heat up and then you can just right away eat, right? So that actually is ready-made. The same thing applies here, Pandas, right? So Pandas here actually is ready-made things, right? You just need to know how to use it. That's all. All right, you don't need to know how it actually has been created. But if you have like detailed knowledge, if you want to have detailed knowledge about the Python, right, then you can have better control, right? Just like if you know how to do roti canai, right, then you can control the texture, you can make it softer and so forth, right? So you have better control. So if you want to use Pandas, right, it's not necessary for you to have detailed knowledge of Python. Just basic concepts of Python, right, is good enough, right, to work in Pandas, right? But if you have detailed knowledge, more knowledge in Python, then you can have better control, all right? In fact, if you are really good in Python, right, you can build your own Pandas. You can have Panda version 2.0, right, created by person A, right? Then you become very glamour and be very popular, right? So these people who are actually creating the ready-made things, right, are built using Python, right? They need to have sufficient knowledge in Python, right? Okay, so let's look at these concepts, right? Pandas, right? So Pandas here, right, is a library, right, and it offers some structures, right? Series, data frame, and panel, right? So we're not going to talk about in detail. We're not going to work with series, panel. So this workshop, right, is intended to provide some exposure on data frame, only data frame, right? Okay, let's look at here. It is like you have columns and rows, just like in Excel, right? When you open an Excel, you have rows and columns, right? And whatever that is, you see actually the labels, columns, and then you have rows, right? So this is in the form of two-dimensional. So this is what we call data frame. So data frame consists of rows and columns, right? Series. Now, what about series, right? Series actually is part of the data frame, right? So when you split this, let's say you take this column alone, right? So this column alone, right, can be called as series. So multiple series, right, can form a data frame, right? So we can separate each column, right, to become a series, right? So we can do some analysis on series, right? So why you need to come up with series, right? Because it's faster to do some analysis, right, to retrieve things, right? That is why they have a series data structure, okay, besides data frame. Okay, now working with data frames in Pandas, right? So now we will just focus on data frame. So let us create a data frame first. So I'm going to create a new, right, kind of like worksheet so that I can write some codes, right? So let's look at here. Can you see that you have new here? Okay, new, and then you will see Python 3. Okay, so then you'll be taken to a different layout. Okay, obviously, right, it is always better to save now, right? Okay, if anything happens, then the whole thing will go on, right? Okay, so I'm going to provide, like, for example, like training, right? Training. Okay, so now you have training. Right. Just want to ask you, right? Are you able to see this clearly? Are you able to see? Or is it like too small that, difficult for you to see, right? Are you able to see clearly? Can anyone respond? Can see, right? Or it's like too small? Okay, crystal clear. Wow, that's good. All right. Thank you. Okay. Now we go back to the content. Right. So over here we have a name, all right, and then you have some data, all right, and then you have the age, right? So I'm going to run this. So before that, all right, before that, I need to import PD as pandas, and I'm going to copy the other libraries as well. Okay, and this. I'm going to run this. Import, not import pandas as PD, right? Import pandas as PD. Okay. So now we can copy this. Okay, I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to display it, right? Can you see that? This is actually a data frame, right? It consists of the two columns. This one represents the column name, and this is another column name, age, right? And this actually is the actual data, right? This actual data, right? So in order to create this is in a different format, right? Different format. And if I want to convert this into this format, data frame, I have to use this one, data frame, right? PD dot data frame, and then you just have to include data, all right, and then you assign to this, all right, and this is how you display, right? So if you want to display the entire thing, you just have to put df. That's it, all right. Now the good thing about using Jupyter, right, is Jupyter normally, right, for this kind of layout, right, program is used for teaching and learning, right? And then if you want to explore something, right, more about Python, right, then we use this because you have cells. Can you see that you have cells, right? And you can jump from one cell to another cell, right? So you don't actually delete this. So next, move on to the next. So all this will be remain there, right? So that is why the Jupyter, right, people use Jupyter for teaching and learning. Okay, now I put here, right, what is data dictionary in Python, right? So we will discuss this shortly. So let me look at this first list. Okay, so this is a data frame, right? So the purpose of you, right, to know about the list, tuple, and then you have data dictionary. Now, as I mentioned just now, that in order to work effectively with pandas, you need to have some basic knowledge about the Python, not detailed knowledge, basic. So the list, tuple, data dictionary, right, kind of be like really required, right? Really required to know, right, if you want to work with pandas, right? Okay, let's look at here, employee record. All right, so I'm going to create, okay, so let's say I have, for example, right, you have some fruits, for example, fruits, right? And then, of course, you need some basket container, right, for you to place the fruits, right? So you can imagine the list is something like a basket, right? to actually to place some items, objects. So the list in Python, how to create a container or basket, right? So I can just put here any name, then followed by this one we call it brackets. All right, so brackets. So next. So I want to store this, right? This one employee record. I have this record, all right, and then this record, right? So what I can do is I can create one more employee record one equals to, and take the whole thing. You copy and paste, right? You have to very be careful because due to difference in encoding, right? So you have to like retype again this one, the single quote. Otherwise, it will not be recognized. Comma and employee record 2. This is for the next record that I'm going to store. Okay, can you see that? I need to retype this. Otherwise, result in error. Okay. And now employee record and this is employee record 2. I want to display the final outcome. You see that? So I have this record, then I want to place into this container. After that, followed by another record, I'm placing another record into this container. So right now you have two sets of records, right? So this one represents the first record and this another record, right? So basically we use list, right, to store something, right, to store objects, all right, to store items, just like a basket, all right? Now we have one more different version. Next is the tuple, right? So tuple, right, is represented by this parenthesis. This is the bracket parenthesis, right? So you may actually ask, what is the difference between this basket and this basket? There is a difference. So let me run this. Okay, this basket, right, is special, is faster to access, but you cannot modify. Once the item's already inside here in the container, right, you'll not be able to modify. So we call it immutable, means something that you cannot modify. But the list, right, you can modify. Whatever the content is inside, right, you can actually modify things, right? So that is a difference, right? This one can be modified, this one cannot be modified. But this is faster to access, all right, compared to this. Then you have one more structure, we call it data dictionary. So I'm going to copy the entire thing. Can you see that? This is a special basket because it has the kind of category, right? It has a category, it's a column name, right? So if you have like, if you want to find 1, 2, 3, 4, then you can refer to this category. So this basket has category with values. This one doesn't have any categories. You just have the values. The same thing applies for the list, only the values, no categories, right? So these are the three main things, right? Structures that you find in Python, right? So again, I mentioned that with DataFrame, right? We want to work with DataFrame Pandas. So you need to know, right? You need to have some knowledge to some extent, right? About the list, tuples, and the data dictionary, right? Right, next, I'm going to copy this. Okay, now it's very important for you to know what version currently are you working on pandas, because there'll be a lot of different pandas. People actually will keep on improving, right, the library from time to time. So you may actually see like version 1, so after 1 month you may see version 2. So the improvement will be always there, continuous. So different versions, right, will behave differently. Some functions may not be in this version and so forth, right? So you need to know exactly, because later on you can always access to, I'm giving an example, pandas documentation. Okay. You see that you have pandas 1.1.2, right? So you may be actually working with the earlier versions. Then you have to refer to appropriate documentation, right? Otherwise, right, you may actually get errors. You might actually use some codes that are actually not relevant, no longer there, right? So you have to know exactly what version you are actually working on. Okay, and then you also need to know what Python version you are currently working on, right? So I'm going to run this. Can you see that? It's 1.05, all right? It is not 1.12, it's 1.05. This is the Panda version. And then you have Python version, you're currently working with 3.8. So some of you actually may be working with 3.7 or 3.3 or 3.0, right? So you really need to know the versions, right? So in order to display the versions, this is how you have to do, all right? Just display the versions. So after knowing this, right, then you can move on to the next level. Now you will see this. I'm going to explain this shortly. Next, I think I put it here together, right? Now, this is not really important thing, right? But it's important if you're using a Jupyter notebook. This one actually controls number of columns that you can display, all right, at particular point in time, right? A number of rows that you can display, all right? And this controls, right, the formatting, right? The formatting in the Jupyter. So that is why we have this set option on all those things, maximum column width, maximum rows, maximum columns, right? Now, this will be important. If you have voluminal records, please do not put here maximum rows, right? You put 300, right? If you put here 1 million, then what will happen? The system can crash, the whole thing, because it takes a lot of space memory, right? So this is the control point, right? Okay, next. Can you see that? I have to retype this because of the different encoding. Right, just to get confirmation that this is already uploaded. So if you go here, you'll get to see here, right? COVID-19 data CSV. So this is what we are actually importing into the worksheet, into the Jupyter. Can you see that? We just have to use read CSV. But if you have Excel file, no issue, right? Then you have read Excel, all right? Or you want to read any other files, you have different function here. So I want to read only this file. Okay, so PD refers to this one, right? Pandas, and then assign to data. You don't have to use print. Okay, you just have to use data. You see that COVID-19 data CSV, right? When you execute, right, it will not display all the records, all right? Because the system is quite intelligent, right? It knows that if, let's say, you have a lot of records, then actually can lead to other issues, right? But it will actually show up how many rows you have and how many columns you have, right? Number of columns and number of rows. Now, on the most left-hand side, you can see something here, numbers, all right? But in the CSV file, you don't have that. You only have 8 columns, right? So why you have the additional thing? This is by default will be there. This is what we call index, default index. It starts with 0 and then ends 38, right? So but the S number starts with 1, right? And 39. So there will be difference, all right? Okay, so next, you know that how many columns you have, how many rows. data copy, right? So now next, actually, we will work with this data set. Right. Now, if you look at here, right, you have self explore, right? Open CSV file with additional parameters, headers, skip rows, number of rows, low memory, right? Now, if you're working especially with large amount of data, right, then all this will be relevant, right? Now, the header, right, if you look at the header, can you see that? Sometimes you can import without the header, all right? So you can just have to put header none. So you only import this part. Or if you think that this is a lot, I don't want to see all these records, right, in my worksheet, you can just import certain number of rows, maybe 50, right? So you have the control point there, right? So if you look at here, you have number of rows, all right? You can define there. Then skip rows. So maybe you don't like to import the header, or maybe you don't like to import the first two rows, right? You can do that, right? So you have some parameters there, right, for you to control, right? So you can actually explore this on your own. Okay. Next, now when you receive some data, right, from let's say from database, from somewhere, right, so you will not know, right, the how the data looks like, right, whether data has some problems in terms of whether you have like invalid data, or you have missing values, or the labels are not properly what do you call labeled, all right. We will not know because the data is coming from somewhere, right? So we need to do some sort of, we call it inspection. We have to do some sort of inspection. We have to do some analysis, all right? So the prior analysis has to be done, because later on, right, when you go to the second part, right, we will do data analysis. So the data analysis, the purpose is actually to analyze some data, and then we make decisions out of it. So we can't actually afford to make wrong decisions, all right, just because of the you have invalid data, right, or inaccurate data. So you have to get it done, right, correctly first, then we do analysis. So let's look at here, data set hit, right? Okay, so next will be hit, right? So when you run hit, the hit, right, by default it will retrieve five records by default, right? But if I want to see more, right, okay, I can just put here 100. When you run again, right, not here, 100, you see that, 100, okay. So 0 to 99, right? So 100 records. So what if, let's say 100 rows, 8 columns, okay. But I want to run this. If I run this, I already maximize here. Maximum rows 300. So I run this and run. Can you see that? I will be able to see 200 rows. Okay. So this is the maximum that you can see, right, on this page, 300. Okay. So we can control here, right, maximum rows that you want to see. Okay. Right. What about the tail? All right. So you have one more here, right? Is the tail. This is actually from the backward. All right. So from the last 5 records. All right. Last 5 records. You can always see here, right? When you scroll down, last 5 records. Can you see that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Last 5 records. Okay. But I want to see more. Can see that from the backward. All right. So this is sort of like we want to view, right? You want to get a feeling, right, how the data looks like. All right. Okay. So if you want to explore more, right? Okay. I know that I have some columns and I have some rows there, but more detail, data info. Okay, I want to see the column names, right? And then what are the data types? Is it an integer, or is it a number, or is it a character? Is it a text, right? So it will be indicated by this. We call it D type. All right, so we know this is a number, we know this is a number, right? This is not a number, it's a text. Okay, now another important information that you can actually see here is over here, right? 57342. Why is not 85? Because you have here, you have some missing values in province state. Okay, so here actually shows that not non-null means that no missing values this much. So when you minus 85,057, you have some missing values, right? So this is one of the ways we can actually able to identify how many missing values are there, right, for each column. Okay, next, data shape. Data shape, right, will give you this information: total number of records and total number of columns. And what about describe? Okay. So describe, right, will give you this information, right? Some statistics things, right? Count, means, minimum, maximum. This is maximum, right? So confirm what is the maximum, right? Confirm cases, all right? What is the minimum, standard deviation, right? And so forth, right? So what if, let's say, I want to see only one column, right? So you can use this. Okay, I'm not going to bother about the S number, but I just want to focus on the confirm. So you can just copy this. You have to put this, right? Remember, single quotation, right? So the representing this is actually is the column name. So when you run, it will only applicable for the confirm. All right, can you see that is the same, right? Account, mean, and all those things. Okay, but what if, let's say, I want to focus only seeing the characters? I mean, the columns which have not numbers, all right, textual thing, right? So I can actually use this describe and exclude int 64. All right, so you get exclude, then I have to put single quotation. Okay, exclude, all right, which means that I'm not going to focus on all these numbers. I'm going to focus on the columns which have text. All right, so for the text, of course, the count, right, the minimum maximum may not be applicable, so the system will know automatically, right, for the categories, for the textual, right, only the count, unique, top, frequency, right, will be applicable. Minimum, maximum, you don't get to see, right, because it is not really applicable, right, for the textual thing, right? So this is how actually you investigate further, right? You want to see certain number of columns, or you choose to hide certain columns with the integer or categories, right? You can do that by working with include and exclude. What if, let's say, I want to see the unique values, right? Counts. So there's another function called counts. Right. Let's look at to copy this country region. Okay, I'm hoping this will work. You have problem because sometimes the system, right, when you have the column with slash and everything, right, you'll have problem, right? The system will not be able to interpret correctly. So in this situation, right, when you have like a column, right, with, you know, all these funny things, right, like slash, so what you need to do is you just have to put bracket over here, and then you just have to put single quote here, single quote. Now you see, right? So this one actually will display all the unique values, okay, and then it will count, all right, the US actually how many times in this record, all right, how many times, okay. So this value, right, it will show the count, all right, how many times the US actually appearing, right, in the record, right. So we'll able to see, right, all the unique values, right, up to here, okay. And you'll get to see, right, when you run this, more or less you can identify, okay, these are very funny things. You have all the call parentheses, comma, all this single quote, right? And then you will see other things as well, parentheses, right? So all this need to be rectified, right? Because later on, right, before you do analysis. So this is a good thing, right? When you do this, you more or less you can see what are the unique values. Then you have funny things, right? And you see that here, right? For this country, right, in front, right, empty space. All these are possible things that actually can take place in real world, right? So when you receive data, right, you see all these kind of things. These are common things, right? So we need to rectify, all right? We should not have any white space in front, all right? We call it blank space, right? Okay, so moving on to the next, right? Handling data in DataFrame, right? So we need to remove certain things. We are going to do some cleaning, right? Okay, first of all, right, this is the first thing that we're going to look at is called duplicate rows, right? So I want you to execute this. You don't have to use the print, right? Okay. Now, over here, right, you'll get to see observation data, province, and all those things, right? Except for the S number, right? So I want to check whether there are duplicated records or not. Means duplicated records means like values are the same or not, right? Based on these columns, all right? So that is why you have data set duplicated. We use this function subset list, all right? In actual fact, right, if you go to the COVID-19, when you scroll down to the bottom, can you see these two rows? They actually duplicated, right? Having same values except for the S number, all right? But the rest, the same. So we want to identify this. Sometimes accidentally, right, we might actually enter the same record into the system, right? So we want to find out, okay, whether this record, does it really match with other records or not, right? So in this case, we have duplicated records. This is the duplicate one, right? So let's run this. Can you see that? It shows here. So this is the record, and this is exactly the same. Can you see that? All this is exactly the same. So we want to knock off this. We want to remove this. We have the option whether you want to remove this or you want to remove this, but you keep one. You don't delete both, you don't remove both, but you just keep one. So you have the options here, right? So here I mentioned here, keep first. Keep first means I'll keep this and I will just knock off this. I don't want this, all right? So let's run this, remove. Okay. When we get the confirmation, yes, the record is no more there. By when you do the tail 4, it doesn't display this record anymore. So we actually remove the record from the data frame. All right. So this is the first thing that we are doing the cleaning. Okay, next, renaming column. If you look at here, it's sometimes very irritating or very funny things, right? Like you have slash, province, sometimes you have space. All this, right, should be good practice, right? We should not actually have like, space in between, right? These two terms, right? Because later on when you do some searching and everything, right, you may have some problems. So we don't have like, a space in between. So maybe you will have like join this, right, by having underscore, all right? Or let's say this is like too long, they maybe actually shorten it, all right? So this is what we need to do, right? Renaming columns. But I want to see first what are the columns that we have. Okay, so I'm going to rename this. Right. Can you see that you have to retype this? Okay, so when you run, okay, so I want to see the data set, shorten, underscore, and you have renamed these two columns, right? Province, state, and city, country, region. All right, so we need to rename it, all right? It improves in terms of processing, and then it looks better, right? Later on when you do analysis, right? Okay, the other major problem that normally we'll have is that we need to deal with is having missing values, all right? So I want to find out whether there are any missing values in the data set. When I put sum, right? So you'll actually total up, right? It will sum up how many null values you have here. Now for this one, no, this is okay, but the province state, right? You have about 28,000 missing values, means no values provided. But this is quite common, right? But how are we going to deal this, right? So that will be the next issue. This is no problem. All you have values for all the records we have. Okay, so for now, is it a good idea to drop the records having the null values or records having the missing values? Is it a good idea? No, it's not a good idea because you might actually remove some important values, all right, that will be very useful for decision making purposes. So we don't actually drop all the values, right? Drop all the missing values. So that is why they have in Pandas, they have provided some options here, not to drop everything, but maybe you want to drop out of 29,000, maybe you want to drop 10,000 or 5,000, all right? Maybe you want to drop only uh, missing values, right? Affecting certain number of columns, not all the columns, right? You have subset, right? So for now, we're not going to drop all of them, right? So can you see that drop and A means that drop rows, right? Having missing values. So for now, I'm not going to drop all of them, but instead I'm going to fill up them, right, with this value, unknown, right? So I'm going to run this unknown, which means that if you, let's say you have a empty, right, empty value, okay, then I'll fill up with unknown, okay, unknown. So we run this, then we get confirmation by running this again. See, no more missing values. All of them have been filled up with unknown. Okay. So this is one of the ways to handle the missing values. Obviously, you can explore other parameters. All this you can explore on your own. Next, I'm going to discuss about indexing, right? Indexing. So if you run this data set, right, you will see this. This is the index, all right? So we want to check if let's say you want to find a record, all right, province state, right? Let's say Beijing, mainland China, right? Country region. We can use the index to find this record. So that is the purpose of having index. We use index to find some records. So generally, right, in DataFrame, right, by default, right, the index will be this, the built-in index that you see on the most left-hand side. But we can also change the default index to something else, like this one. All right, so we can use these numbers to find records instead of using this. All right, so now we're going to change that. I'm going to change the default index to this one. Okay, so when you run and you want to get confirmation now, data set index, you see that is this one. This becomes index, right? So again, when you run this, you'll get to see, you see that on the most left-hand side, which you saw earlier, right? This one gone missing. It is no more there because we have changed the index. The index now is like this one as number, right? So how to reset this? We can always reset back to normal by reset index. Okay, so now we check, right? What will be the index now? Okay, so again, when you run, back to normal. Okay, now for the, for like you have IC and all those things. When you visit a government department, if you want to find out certain things, the first thing they will ask IC number. So the IC number can be index, all right, index. So they use the IC number to find all other related records, right? So that's the purpose of the index, right? Okay, now next we want to do some modification into a data frame, right? By adding new rows, dropping some columns, okay, updating a single value, all right, finding certain things, right? So we will do that now. Let's say I have a new record that is we are approaching a new record, for example, all right? Let's say I want to add this new record into the data frame, into this, all right, new record. So I just have to copy this, okay, new record, and this new record will have 85639. Okay, when I run this, okay. So when you see append means, right, you're actually giving instruction to add new record, all right, into this data frame. So let's get confirmation whether the record has been added or not. What should I use? Is it the head or tail? I should be using the tail because the index number, right, should be appended to the last, actually, based on the index, right? So can you see that it is already added? This one, all right, has been added. Okay, next, if you look at this, the entire data frame, so we'll come to know that some columns may not be really useful for analysis. I'm going to drop one of the columns here, right here. So last update, it is not really important. So I'm going to drop the entire column, right? So I'm going to use drop, run, and then to get confirmation, there is no more there. We just drop it because this may not be really useful, right, for data analysis. So we just drop it, right, using drop columns axis. Axis 1 is actually referring to the columns. This is column section. This is the row section. So axis 0 means is the row, right? Okay. Now, just now we handle properly, right, the missing values. Okay, missing values, right? So now some records, right? Some records you will see, right? Can you see that here like 00000, right? Now you may actually be wondering, will they be useful for analysis when you have confirmed dates recover all 00? So we're going to actually knock off this. We're going to remove this, all the 00, right? Because we only want to find out, right, something important information, right? So we don't want to have all the information. So we're going to remove whatever that you have confirmed dates, right? 0 and 0, right? We're going to knock off that. Okay, let's try this. Okay. So I'm targeting the unknown values, right? So let's run this. So when you run this data set, right? So I'm targeting, remember just now you fill up the missing values with unknown. Now you'll get to see, right? All this filled up, unknown, all right? But I want to remove the one that with unknown with all the, that's zero, confirm zero. I want to remove this one, unknown and having 0 0. All right, so all this should be removed lah. All right, remove. But I want to keep the unknown with some values confirm, not 0 that 0. All right, so that is the purpose of this, right? First I'm going to find out what are the unknowns that you have 0 and 0. All right, so when you run you'll get to see, right? But how to remove these records? All right, because you have so many records, right? So next we will copy the entire thing. So you already know, right, that these are the records that will be deleted. And if you want to delete the record, right, so many records, you have to know the index, like 82, 81. You have to like memorize, okay, I have to remove the 77, 78 and all those things. But it's going to be very troublesome because involving a large number of records, right? So a better way to solve this, I'm going to take all this index, all right, that you have unknown with this 0 0. All right, so that is why you have index to drop and I convert index to list, right? So when I execute this and print to drop, these are the index. Can you see that? 77. So it will pick up all the indexes which comply with this unknown and 0 0. So I'm going to use this, right? All these indexes, all right, to plug in here to drop the index here. So that will be the next. Okay, index to drop. It means you pick up everything and then drop those indexes. So when you drop the indexes means you'll drop all the rows, right? So when you run, okay, and get confirmation whether you have removed all of them or not. Can you see that? It's empty. Just now you had record, right? Because you have removed. So that is why you don't get to see any records. So unknown with 0 0, no more. That's it. All right. But another problem takes place. When I run this, 8520270, but index is 85638. So the index actually jumbled up, not in order, all right, because you have deleted records. So you have total number of rows, all right, but the index might actually jump from 4, maybe next will be 6, all right. So how to solve that? How to make sure, right, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it follows in that arrangement, all right? Then you have to do this. Reset the index. Reset the values of the default index. Okay, so now you run data set. You see that? It's nicely arranged. 0, right? It really matches with here. 52269, all right? 270, because start with 0, right? But the S number, right, still have problem, right? It doesn't really match with this. Earlier we saw that if this is 0, this is 1, after that it's supposed to be 5, and then this is 6 means he's supposed to be 7, but it's not like in synchronized with this, right? So we solve again, right, with this. Because of the plus, and we run. You see that? Now it's synchronized. Okay, 269, 270, right? It makes sense because start with 1, right? Here starts 0. All right, so that is the purpose of doing this, right? We just want to synchronize, all right, the indexes, right? Okay, next, if we want to update a single value in data frame, right? So I need to specify, right, the index number. Okay, perhaps I want to update this one, the US to UK, right? So I need to specify the default index, which is this, and which column that you want to update. I want to update the country region, US to UK, right? So we can use data set at. At is a built-in function, at. So when you use the at means you can only update a single value. Take note of this, a single value, right? So US will change to UK. So when I run this and to get confirmation, that has been changed to UK. All right. So we need to specify two things. One is the index. The other one is which column that you want to update. So it's like kind of like a intersection, right? The index and the column, right? Okay, now this is something that I really love, all right, to do, right? Of course, the regular expressions, right, can be found in other programming languages, but we can also find in the Python, right? Remember just now we saw this. Let me run. Let me run this. Okay. I want to find out whether the country region you have like very funny things. So let me run this. Can you see that? This is empty space, right? Can you see that you have slash s? Slash s means it will look for empty space. There is an empty space right in front. Then it will look for any parentheses. Can you see that you have like parentheses closing? It will show up here, right? This is a parenthesis. Then you have like a single quote also will show up, right? So I want to find all these possibilities. I want to find out whether the country region have like the parentheses, all right? Then you have empty space in front. So when you put like this symbol, right? The system will find out from the very beginning, all right? So you will not actually find at the after the beginning, right? It's always at the beginning. That's why you put here at the beginning. Then I want to find out whether there is any single quote or not. So it will show up. Can you see that you have a lot? All right, all these parentheses, parentheses and all this, this one will cause some issues later on, right, when you do some analysis. So we might as well we just remove all these funny things, right? You have the parentheses, all right, you have a single quote, all those things. So this is the identification. We do inspection. This would be called regular expression, finding some special characters, all right, taking place in country region. All right, so we put here country region contains what are the things that you want to find. I want to find all this. In fact, I want to find the comma as well. There is a comma here, right? So these are the possibilities. So input regular expression. The system actually will display all this. Okay, next I want to remove one by one. I want to remove the comma. I want to remove this parenthesis, right? One by one, right? So here remove parenthesis. So let's run this. Okay, so I want to remove the parentheses. Can you see that? Parentheses. And to get confirmation again, can you see that parenthesis? No parentheses, right? Okay. So next, we will remove the white space. Okay. So we remove the white space and then remove the comma. And remove the quote. Okay. After removing everything, right, we want to find out whether you have or not. Okay. All these funny things. Okay. No more. Can you see that? No data. No data with the parentheses, no data with the comma and everything. So we try to get confirmation. Earlier we saw we had this, right? Contains. So after removing, right, you'll get to see all this. Okay, removed. So that's the purpose of a regular expression. So if you want to know more about this, how we can actually use it, right? You can always visit to the website, all right? You have plenty of information about that. Okay, next, after doing all this, all right, so next, selecting columns. Let's say I want to show up only selected columns, right? Let's say over here, right, you tend to see a lot of columns. I want to see only selected columns, perhaps the first two columns, right? So we just need to use data set. We need to specify what are the columns that you want to see, right? So you put here as number and then date. Only these two columns I want to see, right? But it has to be like in the single quote, right? Must be enclosed with single quote, okay, single quote, right? Okay, now you have problem because I need to retype this two columns. But I simply put here a head. It will show the first, by default, the first 5 records. Okay. So next you have selecting rows, right? So instead of selecting columns, we can also select rows, right? For example, I want to see from 85 to 65. I need to put the index, and from 85 to 69. So this is actually is using index to find the records that you want to see. This one is actually to find the columns. You want to display the columns, right? Right, and then you display all the records. This one's to find selected records. So selecting rows, columns, filtering rows. What if, let's say, I want to view only, right, columns, all right, having, for example, province state is unknown, country region, Japan. All right. I have to retype this. Okay, can you see that this is a vertical line? Means that there are two conditions that you are applying, right? I want to see values with province state unknown, or I say it's not and, or country region with Japan. Okay, so when I run, you will see unknown, you display the records with unknown or with a Japan. Okay, so that is the purpose of this vertical line is all. So you can have multiple conditions inside. All right, so here you have two conditions. This one condition, this is another condition. Okay, so you can have as many as possible, but this is actually quite common lah, because we don't want to see all the records. Maybe we want to filter, we want to see selected records based on some conditions. Not only that, in order to make it your life easier, right, then we have like some functions in DataFrame, right, is in, right? So I'm going to execute this. This is similar, but the only thing, the difference is this one is easier to use because I don't have to use like, assignment operator like 2 times. Right? I can just use the function here, is in. Is in means, right, whatever that you find inside, all right, then you're meeting the condition, right? So whatever that you can put any items inside is in, right? So province state with Beijing, then you will display, or country region with Ukraine. So let's run this. Can you see that? With a Beijing, country region, Ukraine. So this is a bit easier to use, right, compared to this, right? Because you have some functions. But what is a good thing here is you can put more things inside, all right, like comma, other values, all right? So this is like a kind of like a collection of sets, right? You can put more things inside, right? This one you have to do multiple times, right? So this is applicable only for one value, all right? So that is why they came up with this idea, is in, right? Okay, a better way, right? I can do like this. Okay, I can separate these two conditions, right, into two statements. I can put here data set province set Beijing, and this is another one. Okay, and I can just print this. I can apply this. You see that this filter one will be replaced with this, substitute by this. Filter two, right, will be substitute by this. It's the same concept, but this is more readable and easier. So when I run, you'll get the same thing, all right? But this is just a different way of doing it, all right? And you can add more, right? It's more readable. So you don't get to see a lot of like characters inside. Like here you have a lot, right, inside, all right? So this is like simplified, right? Okay, next we have filter, all right, functions. This filter is only applicable for the labels rows, right? So I'm going to explain why you have this, especially those actually working with large number of columns, maybe 10,000 or 5,000 columns, and you want to display selected columns. You can use filter. Can you see that? It only shows up this, but this is 7 is this may not be really you don't see the importance of using the filter, but in some cases you can have like 1,000 rows. You can have like in a text processing, right? You can have a lot. So in that case, right, you need to specify this will be easier, all right? Filter. So this is applicable for the columns. We want to find out anything that actually matches with the column names. But what about the rows? All right, so we can apply this. This is dangerous. I need to retype this. Okay. So I put here filter like one. Can you see that? It will return all with one. Like one means one. Anything that's one. This is applicable for the index. All right. So when you put axis 0 means is the row. All right. Anything with one, right, it will display. And what about this? I want to find records having index having 1 1. You see that? Anything with 2 digits, 1 1 1 at least. So you'll show up those records, right? So take note that the filter only applicable for the columns, okay, not the values, the columns and the rows index, right? Okay, next, slicing data frame using lock ilock, right? Okay, this location, right, will be useful, especially you are changing the index. Let's say I'm changing the index. Okay, I'm changing the index. So currently the index is this one, right? This is the index, right? So I want to change the index to as number, right? So I just have to use this. Okay, so now you have changed the index. It's no more there, right? This one is no more. All right, so this becomes index. So now you can find the records based on this as number. So this LOC is only applicable for the index. Okay, so now I'm going to use, I want to find out some records based on the one that you define here, the index. All right, so okay, 1 to 4, right? Means that I want to find from 1 to 4. And what are the columns you want to display? Confirm and this one. Okay. So now you can actually use the log only applicable, right, for the label, this type of index. Right. Okay, so you can also use LOC, right, for based on the conditions. Okay, so I want to find out records, all right, that having confirmed more than 16 cases. 16 cases. And what is the column that I want to display. I want to display only the confirm. Okay. So all this you find that confirm is more than 16. All right. So you retrieve all the records with more than 16, and you only want to show up confirmed column. All right. But of course you can add more. All right. You can add more. All right. If you want to display other columns, you can do that. All right. Okay. Update specified record. We can also use log to update specified record. Okay, can you see that you have 5270, right? And the UK. We want to change back this to US. You can do this 5270 to US. So when I run this and to get confirmation, that is already US. So there are different ways, right? Different methods, right, to update records in DataFrame, right? So just now we saw that is add. Now we can actually use log, right? And we can also drop a single row. I'm going to drop the last row. I'm going to use drop. Okay, so I'm going to drop this 5270. And to get confirmation, there's no more there, right? We can just use the function drop. Okay. Now you have one more here, right? ilog. Ilog means index location, right? Means that it falls on the fallbacks on the default index. Okay, default index. So currently, right, the index is different, right? Data set. Currently is as number. So we can't use ilog for this one, cannot. You have to use on the default index. So I need to reset the index back to the normal, means back to this one, back to this, right? So what is the command I have to use? Data set reset index and in place true. Okay, so now I want to check what is the index. So you find that the default index appears. Okay, so now this appears. This becomes default index now, right? So now you can use ilog. So I want to find out the index starting from here and then ends here, right? So it'll show up. Okay, so index location is a default index. So we have done a lot of modifications, right, to the data set. But all this data that actually you are seeing, right, is actually in the memory. It is not really saved, right? So you see, right, whatever that you done changes here, all right, it will not be saved here. This is the actual file, all right? Whatever that you're currently working is actually happening in the computer memory, all right? You have not saved to file yet. So I'm going to save whatever changes that you have done. I'm going to save to a different file, right? Different file name. Can you see that? I'm not going to actually modify the original data file, but it's not a good practice because the raw file has to be there. We should not actually modify anything. So instead we create another copy of it, right? Whatever changes they are doing, right? It should be a different file name, not affecting the original file, right? So we keep it this, okay? And whatever changes that you have done, I'm going to save it to a different file name. Can you see that? Dataset CSV. So when I execute this, when you put index false means you're telling the system that, hey, look, you don't carry this, you don't copy this into the file because I don't want this. I only want from S number to up to here. So that is why you put here index false. When you put header true, which means that you're telling the system that, hey, look, please copy the header as well. All right. We have the option not to choose the header, right? So, but we want to have it header. So when you execute this and we want to see whether the file is already there or not, we can go here, home page. Can you see that? Dataset COVID CSV is already there. And this is the modified version. So when you click on this, can you see that the column names are different now, right? All these are modified. Okay. Modified 5269, right? Modified version. And this is the file that we will actually use for analysis, right? Not this file. This is the raw data. All right. So this is the modified. Okay. So that's saving data frame to CSV file. Okay. Next, come to the data summarization. So we'll do some analysis. All right. We have done the cleaning, all right, by removing certain columns, certain number of rows. And then next, we will do analysis. All right. Okay. So I need to import this. I need to read this. This is the file that you have saved. I need to read this, the content, and then I put into data set. Okay. So when you run, and we need to check. This is all the modified one. All right. So you have 5269. Okay. So this sort of like a clean version. All right. So you have removed all the unwanted things, right? And then next we can actually do the analysis, right, based on this data frame. Okay. The first one is the common operations that we do, right, in visualization or analysis is the sorting. We want to sort. So when you do the sorting, we can see which one largest, smallest, and so forth. All right. So I'm going to sort values based on the deaths. I want to see, right, which one, which country, perhaps, right, having, right, the largest number of deaths, right? So when you put here ascending falls, when you put ascending falls means you start from the large number to the small number, right? So we run this. Data set. You see that? Large number. From large number to the small number. So this is sorting, right? Based on the deaths. You can do that. You can also use other columns. But I want to sort based on the index. You can do this. And sort, right, based on the, we can see the sort index, right? Sort index means you use the default index, right, to sort from start from 0. All right. So data set sort index in place 2. Okay. Right. Right. So this is the sort index, right? So you have done. Next is the grouping. All right. So grouping is very important feature, right, for the analysis. Let's say I want to summarize the data based on the country, region, confirm deaths and some, right? So let's run this group by country. So you'll get to see, right, the country, right, group by country, country, region, and what are the columns, confirmed deaths, right? So you can see here, right, and sum. So you'll total up confirmed death, confirm summation, right, for this country, this much, death, this much. So that is the strength of the group by, right? So group by, we need to specify what exactly you want to group, which column by country, region, and what are the things that you want to display, this one, and what are the columns that you want to do the summation, right? So the summation is for the 2 columns. We can also put mean as well, mean, average. And so that is the average. average. All right, so we can change this. No issue. All right, we can change this. Okay, case 2, right? Group by more than one column. Okay, more than one column. This is group by country only, right? So I want to do multiple groupings, but I need to retype this. Okay, now you will see. Okay, so when I put here, let's say hit. Right. So for this kind of countries, country region, but if you look at here, right, for some countries you have the province state, right? Then it will have, you show the breakdown. Okay, for this country, for this kind of state, what are the confirm and that's figure, all right? All right. So selected countries, you have province and state, right? So this is like, we call it 2-level grouping. This is the first level, after that followed by province state, okay? But maybe this is irritating. We don't want to have like unknown everything. We want to knock off this, right? So we can use this data set, remove all the unknown things. And when we run, okay. So can you see that you don't have the unknown no more? We don't want to take into consideration the province state with the unknown. We don't want to see that, right? So maybe we are more interested, right, with the province state that actually that is not unknown, right? Like this one. Okay, so we can have this kind of flexibility, right? Okay, now what about grouping and sorting together? Grouping and sorting together, we can do that. We have done the grouping and we want to do the sorting as well. Sort by this. Okay, so can you see that it is sort by large number, ascending false. So I'm actually arranging by confirm and dead, right? Sort, right? So large number, all right, and then to a small number, right? Confirm deads. So this is actually like we're applying grouping plus with the sorting, right? So we actually performing the sorting, right? 2 levels. One is by the confirm and then followed by the deads, or you can just have one single column, right? Okay, next, grouping and statistics. Okay, now group by country region, and what are the columns that you want to show? I already specify a confirmed deaths recovered, right? And we look at here percentiles, right? So let's run this. Percentiles, right? It will show up 25%, 50%, right? 75%. By default, it will show the 50%, all right, when you do the describe. But if you want to see more, 25%, 75, then you have to specify here. So you'll see, right, for 25, 50, 75, for each column, you'll get to see all this. Set, death is another thing, recovered, another thing, all right? So we can apply this describe that you attempted earlier in the group by. We can do that, right? And then we can see some statistics figures. We also have a different way to do this to get the statistic figures. We can use mean, standard deviation, mean, minimum. So let's run this. But here, right, I'm going to limit to only the mean, standard deviation, and minimum, not all the information, right? So we can run this. So can you see that? Mean, standard deviation, minimum, all right, for 3 columns. So this is more, this is like more detailed information, all right? But if you want to like limit, all right, then we can specify here. I want to see the mean, standard deviation, and minimum. But if let's say you want to see only the summation, not the mean and everything, we can run this. Oops, invalid syntax means, yeah, this one. So this is only sum, all right, sum, right? Confirm that's. But if you want to change the column, right? If you don't want to see this one, you want to have a more meaningful columns, then we can try this. That's, oops. Okay, so this is the same actually, right? The only difference is we want to come up with a better naming, like for the columns, right? So you have here confirm cases, the same thing, right? So we will provide here, right, the column name and then confirm that's, right? So both for the sum, right? So the sum actually will applicable for this column. This sum is applicable for that's, right? So we can also change this to mean, and this is to sum also can. Uh, okay, and the okay, this is the minimum, right? Right. So let's say we want to work with the dates, all right? Dates quite special here, right? Because whatever that you have stored here, right? For example, data set run, this one is stored in a particular format. But if you want to work with a date in a group by, right, you have to change this format, all right? So that is why we need to do this, right? Date time, we need to change the format. So let's look at here. This is in this format. When I run this, okay, after that data set, you see that the format has been changed. Okay, so Pandas actually have like some conditions, right, that you have to work with this kind of format. All right, so therefore, right, we need to change this format to this format by using toDate time. Right, so after doing this, then we do the group by. So I want to see, right, information like group by year. Okay, can you see that you have two levels here, right? By year and by month. All right, so when you run, you get to see, right, by year and by month. When I scroll down, I can see this is the month 2, same year by month 3. So at least I can get some information about, okay, the first month, what are the, how many cases you have for the summation, all right, this function. So for the second month, right, is it high or dropped, all right? So you'll be able to know, all right? Okay, next cross tab. This is a different way of looking data, right? So I'm going to create an additional column. Can you see that you have BT month, right? So I'm going to create on top of this, I'm going to create one more column, month. So when I run this, you can see the month. Okay, so it will pull, right? Means that, can you see that the date, right, is the 1? So it'll show up here 1. When this is 8, it will pull the 8 here, right, and show up here. So I want to have this kind of column, right? Shows that the month number, all right? So I pull only the month, all right? And then it will show up here 1, 8. So we will able to know, okay, this is the 8th month, the first month, and so forth, all right? So you have the additional column. And I'm going to do the cross tab. When you use the cross tab, right, you will see like the columns and the rows, right, by country, region, and the columns. So you will know exactly for this kind of country, right, you will see first month, there's any problem or not, how many deaths, right, how many that's for the second column, right, and so forth. So this one gives a better view actually. It's what I call cross tab. We are changing the axis, right? So we can rotate, all right, by having this is the month, okay, and then this is a country region. So we know that these are the number of cases, all right, 31. All this actually showing the number of cases, how many cases per month, all right? So it looks like the 6th month, right, is a 30 cases, all right, for this country. So it will count automatically, when you see the cross tab, right, country region month. So you will count all this, right, for the first month for this country, how many times, all right? So this is cross tab. And then we have one more powerful thing that we call it pivot. The pivot actually exists in Excel, right? Also exists in Excel, where you see data in multiple dimensions, like 2 dimensions, 3 dimensions, 4 dimensions. So Pandas actually support pivoting as well, right? So let's execute this. I'm selecting some columns here from the data set. That's months, country, region. There is a function called pivot table, all right? Columns, can you see that? Columns. And for the values and the columns, all right? So let's run this and look at how the data looks like, right? Okay. The values here means, right, it refers to the figures, right? So it will show for every country. So I'm actually, the columns referring to this, all this, all the way, okay? And it will, what is the value here? Is it summation or mean? By default, the system, right, will use mean by default. If you're using pivot table, if you don't specify anything here like mean or sum, so it will be mean. So for every country, right, the deaths, right, values, columns. So this like involving 2 dimension. What about like 3 dimensions? So we go to the next. Values, columns, index. Aggregate function is not the mean. So now you'll see, right, 3 dimensions, right? You have 3 things here. One is the, when you put index means like sort of like group by. I want to see by country region. That is the purpose of index. And what are the columns? Columns you already mentioned here, month. And which column that will be used for calculation is the dates. So you have 3 things to specify now. All right. One is the column, index, values. All right. The count. I can change this to sum. You see different things. Okay. Sum. So this is like 3 aspects. All right. You're viewing data from 3 angles, right? One is the month, then you have the country region, and then you have the dates. Okay. We can also have multiple count and mean. We can also do that. This is only for sum, right? So now when you run, this is the whole thing for the count, this whole thing for the mean. Okay. And if you want to drop all those things, all right, if you don't want this, then we can execute this. Fill value 0, that's it. And drop any missing values true. If there are any missing values, drop. And whatever that you see here, right, you want to drop, you can do that by doing this. Fill value 0. Now you'll see when you run, can you see that whatever the NaN, right, you see all fill up with values 0, 0, right? So that is the purpose of using the fill value 0, right? Okay, so this pivot cross tab, right, allows us actually to view data in a different way, right? But the next, right, we want to convert, right, those things, right, into visualization, right? So we can use the graph. So let's try this. Group by country region, confirm. sum, right? Okay, now before I execute this, before I remove this, right? Okay, n largest means, right, it will show up the top five, right? I don't want to see all of them, right? So if you remove this, what will happen is, you get to see a lot of things here, right? You have to scroll down, right? But I want to see the top five, right? Top largest numbers, right? So you can just add this and largest five. When you run, oops, and largest is supposed to be a dot. Okay, can you see that? Top five. And I want to convert this into graphical form. So you see this. So you find that this country US is the highest, right? Followed by the rest. So this is actually visualization, right? So the system will know exactly the country region by country region, right? So it will show up here, the x-axis, and the confirmed right will be the y-axis, right? What if I want to see region month as well? So this is two-level groupings, country, region, month, right? So you will show up the 8 largest, okay, by the month, country, region, followed by the month. So if you don't do this, if let's say I'm going to remove, for example, this in figures, when I run this, you'll get to see this, right? Russia, month 7, this much. But I want to convert this into, can you see that 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? Largest. But I want to convert this into graphical form, then you just have to use it like this. Okay, then you have, if you look at here, it's like, showing up the country, region, month, right? So we have another way to visualize. We call it stack unstack. All right. So I'm going to use this. Let's say I use stack here, right? Stack. All right. 10 largest, right? 10. Of course, I need to retype this. 2 levels: country, region, month, and the count actually, right, is applicable for the month here, and the type of chart will be the bar. So when you run series, okay, stack. Okay, so you'll get to see unstack means, right, you will separate things, right? So let's try. Can you see that? This is kind of like stack, right? But I want to separate. Right? Then you can use unstack. Oops. It should be. Oops, it's a function. Okay. So let's. So this is the legend. Of course, you can decorate this like you have some attributes to rename the y-axis, x-axis. You can do a lot of things, formatting, right? So that will be a different topic, right? You can do the formatting, right? Okay. Next, apply your knowledge, right? So if you access to this website, okay, so I've given you this website. Okay, data table. This is the WHO download, right? So if you look at here, download, right? So this is the updated version, right, from the WHO, right? So you can actually do some sort of cleaning and then analysis, all right? So that is the, you can attempt this later on, all right? Carry out necessary data cleaning, data analysis, all right? So you can do this at your own pace, right? Okay, so I've done with all this. Do you have anything that you want to ask? We can spend about 10-15 minutes. Are you there or gone for lunch? Anything that you want to ask? Yeah, we can plot graph like what I've shown you just now. All right, so this is the graph. All right, we can do that. So the pandas actually support plotting graphs, but it helps. You need to get help from the other packages as well, right? Which is the MATLAB, right? So if you look at MATLAB, okay, MATLAB. So with pandas and MATLAB, right? So we need to import this as well. All right. Of course, you have other packages besides MATLAB, right? I think Cbond or something like that, right? For to plot the graph as well, right? So there are, several packages, right? That actually you can actually use with pandas, right? Right. Any other questions that you have? Any other questions? Yeah, line graph based on month you can just instead of you just have to modify here and the kind. Okay, so you can just modify here, right? So over here you have your kind bar, right? So instead of bar, you can just use line, right? Okay, so you can change this, right? We can change this parameter, all right, bar, right, to line, right? We can do that, or pie chart as well. We can do that, right? So if you go to the plot graph, right, in pandas, so you can do all this, right? Plot, right? This kind of things, right? All these are supported, right? So just now we did this bar, right? So we can also do the histogram, box, right? Area, scattered, pie, and all this can be done, right? But you just need to know the parameters, like how to change the parameter, what parameters you have to use inside the functions. All these are histograms. Okay. Right. Any other questions that you have? Okay, Raymond Lee, right? Oracle and Pandas, which good for manage. Can you be more bit clearer? Oracle and Pandas, yeah. Raymond, are you there? Yeah. Can you be more a bit clearer with the question? Oracle and Pandas. Is it using Oracle's software? Is that what you're trying to say? Okay. Yeah. All right. Of course, the data that we just now we were working, right, is actually from CSV file, right? Of course, Oracle can store data, right, in database, so we can pull. We can use some queries, right, to pull into pandas. We can do that, all right, from database, right? No issues. We can do that, right? But for processing, right, we use Pandas. So the data that you'll find in the Oracle database, but when you want to do some processing, right, we will use Pandas, which means that we try to import data from Oracle, then we do some sort of processing like what we did just now. All right, large amount of data, right? Okay, any other questions? Any other questions that you have? Any other questions? Okay, this is just for your yeah. Okay, why do we need Anaconda? Okay, now to make our life easier. That's all, right? Now, of course, we can use any other ID, right? So I'm going to show you, right? Okay, why we need to use Anaconda? Because if you're working with, for example, right, just now. Okay, we are working with this, right? It looks like so easy, right? Then we can just type in some codes and then we can get the results. No, actually, if you want to, if you're not using this Anaconda, right, you have to install the Python, right? You have to install the Python, for example. Okay. Uh, you have to install some other programs first, right? Python interpreter. Okay, Python interpreter, right? So Anaconda, right, it downloads everything for you. It's like, you know, it downloads the Python together, all right? It downloads this one, everything, right? So you just right away have to use the program. So that is the purpose people actually using Anaconda, right? Anaconda, right, it's like it downloads everything, all right? So before you could use the Jupyter notebook, you have to download Python separately. You have to do that, all right? But with the Anaconda, right, it downloads everything for you. Okay, and then you just right away have to use notebook. Okay, so as I mentioned just now, right, so normally we use the Jupyter and Jupyter notebook, right, is for the teaching learning, and then you want to explore more on the Python or some libraries. All right. Okay, yeah, didn't share. Let me share first. Okay. Yeah, so before you could use this, right, Jupyter notebook, before you could use this, okay, before you could use this, you need to download Python, all right? So Python download this. You need to download this, all right? After downloading this, all right, then you can work with Jupyter notebook, whatever. But when you start using Anaconda, right, it downloads everything for you to make your life easier. But as I mentioned, Jupyter Notebook is appropriate for teaching, learning, right, to explore further. But for development, we don't use Jupyter Notebook. We use PyCharm. This one. This one got community edition now, right? This one we use for development. If you want to develop some applications, all right, then we use different ID, not Anaconda. We use for development, all right? So you have different purposes now, right? So if you're looking forward, all right, to develop some applications, please use PyCharm, right? Okay, any other things that you want to ask? Any questions? So from here, right, what is the next level? Okay, after picking up all the pandas and everything, right? So the next level, right, if you're keen in learning AI things, all right, because if you want to use like machine learning and everything, right, you got to really prepare the data. So that is why the pandas actually, right, coming into picture. All right, so we use pandas, all right, to clean everything, and then we will throw the data right to the machine learning codes, all right, so that it will do prediction and everything. So from here, right, after completing this, right, the next level that you might be like interested, right, to know about machine learning, that will be the next thing that you can learn now, right? But if you want to use the machine learning codes and everything, you must have some basic understanding about Pandas. All right. So after completing this, right, then it shouldn't be a problem. All right. So that will be the next level. All right. AI things, machine learning. All right. So to some extent, right, we can use Pandas for analysis lah, to view data from different dimensions. We can draw graphs and those things, just like in Excel. All right. Okay, so that is the purpose of Pandas. All right, we do some analysis, and then Pandas also useful for machine learning, right? Because machine learning codes actually really support uh, Pandas libraries. Right? Okay, any other things? Any questions? Any other questions that you may have? All quiet only. Hungry, or your stomach is making noise, right? Okay. Right. So after completing this, right, you can try the data set, right? You do the cleaning first, after that you do data analysis, right? Then you'll have a complete picture about Pandas, how it works, right? Any other questions? Yeah, okay. Since you asked this question, okay, then I got to share with you. Okay. I started with C language, right? And then picked up along the way, I picked up C++, Java. Of course, I'm a big fan of Java, all right? For development and everything for many years, right? I've been using Java, all right? But this Java, C++, right? They have different purpose, right? Depending on the nature of the industry, right? So some people say that C++ are no longer relevant nowadays. No, it's not true. At the machine level, hardware level, right, it's still faster than any other programming languages. So we still use C++, right? In some cases, industry, when we interface with the machines, right? We used to use C++, but not machine learning. Machine learning, we use Pythons, all right? Commonly, we use Pythons, all right? Because you have plenty of libraries and the codes are very much shorter. You can use C++ or Java, right, to build machine learning, but you're going to be like taking lots of time to build machine learning codes. For example, like Python, right, 2 lines. In Java, right, you may have 10 lines. It's not that we cannot do, all right, use Java to implement machine learning. But the thing is, the nature, the type of programming language, right, is different, all right? So C++, we don't use that, all right, for machine learning. We use Python, all right, Python. But at the machine level, right, interfacing and everything, we use C++, C language as well, all right? Some industries like banking, all right, and then for military applications, we use Java, no? Java, because it's reliable, secure, all right? So we have a different uh, purposes, different, completely different, right? Managing data, right? Yeah, because you have libraries and then you have a lot of supports now, right? Supports, right, for CSV files, Excel files, right? And then the codes are much more uh, not very tedious, all right? Shorter, all right? So when you have a lot of supports in terms of API libraries, of course, people go for that, right? Python, right? So now you find that Python is like very common, right? Everywhere, right? People talking about Python, Python, but it's not. Python is not, we're not suitable for all kind of situations. No, right? So for depending on the nature of the industry, right? The purpose, all right? That actually these aspects actually play very important role, right? In choosing, deciding, right? The type of programming language that need to be used, right? So Python is not for all the cases, right? Depending on the situation, right? Depending on the industry, okay? But people say that, okay, when you learn C language or C++, it's like mother or father of all the languages. That is true, lah. All right. So if you know C language and C++, right, you can just pick up any other languages easily. All right. So that's the advantage. All right. So knowing variety of programming languages is a good thing because we know that every programming language has its own strengths and weaknesses. All right. So when it comes to a situation where, in a company A, right, that people are using Java, right, and then you want to convert into Python, but you have to know about Java first, because before you can convert into Python programming language. So if you have like some sort of like 2-3 languages that you are know of, programming languages, then you'll be a better handler, right, to develop things, right? So Python, with I would say Java has been around for many years, but it's still top 5, right? Popularity, right? So we're still using Java, right? So if you Python, Java, these two things, right, are good enough, all right? If you want to really pick up, right, programming languages, right? Okay. Any other things? R. Okay. Um, R. The people compare R and Python. Okay. Yeah, R, we can do data analysis, no issues, right? You can do machine learning and all those things. But when it comes to development, right, developing something, right, Python has it offers more flexibility, right? Because the the Python, right, has the it uses the concepts of Java, some concepts, right? So uh, Python is pure programming language, I'll say. Python is pure programming language. R is not a pure, it's made of a lot of rich in libraries, all right? So right away you can use, so anybody can actually learn about R. But when it comes to a flexibility in developing things, right, Python is still important, all right? You can have better control, all right, Python, all right? It's not that I'm discouraging R, but this is the reality, all right? Yes, it's true enough, all right? Have different application, it's true enough, all right? For example, like military applications, we are more focused on reliability, right? When you send signal, it has to be reaching faster, right? We can actually use a programming language, right, that it takes time or delay, right? That's very critical, all right? So different applications use different languages. Yeah, C++, still, yes, relevant. C language, right, still being used, though it's been more than 30 years, right? It's still there, right, in industries, especially at low level, right? Machine level, assembly language, those kind of things. Okay, it's still there, all right? Interfacing components, machines, hardwares, we use C++, all right? The firmware, vendors, firmware, we still use C++, all right? Okay, any other questions? Uh, I have learned C++, but still wondering where to proceed, what languages. Okay, C++ you have learned. Okay, that's good thing. All right. Then you can pick up. All right, pick up Java and Python perhaps. Right, Java, Python. All right. Okay. Any other questions? Like C sharp, no. This is like competition now, right? So when people, a lot of people have started using Java, right, became very popular, right? Then people introduce C sharp, no. But it looks like when you go into deeper, right, when you see the C sharp, it looks like Java. So if you know Java, you can do C sharp. That's the thing, right? Okay. Any other things? Any questions? Have I answered all your questions, doubts? Where can find the recording? Then you have to ask the organizer, Miss Lee, right? Miss Lee, yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you for the explanation, Miss Lee. Right. All right, any other questions that you have? Any doubts? So make sure you have this PDF file. If you're unable to catch up, you can always try this, attempt this at your own pace, all right? Uh, yeah, okay. So um, if you ask me, right, I actually have been conducting a lot of training on Java, right? Because that is actually I'm a big fan lah of Java, right? Okay, I really love Java, right? But along the way, right, we see that Java is not really popular in machine learning because not much support and everything, because they have a different focus, right? Oracle. Now Oracle owns Java, right? Okay. So the focus is different, all right? So it's not an issue. We can develop Java and then we can still interface Python backend in machine learning, all right? So these two programming languages, right, can talk to each other. We can do that, all right? So it's not a waste that you learn Java, right? We can build Java and then the backend, they have another program for machine learning. We can develop Python and we can interface both together. We can do that, all right? So it's not that I'm promoting you, right, to learn Java, but this is the reality, lah, all right? Because when you go out, people either will ask whether you know Java or Python, all right? For machine learning, yes, Python, right? Okay, any other things? No questions, right? Sure. All right. So if you have any doubts, any you're looking forward for any advice, you can always email me. All right. I believe that you know my email, right? Okay, you can email me always. All right. Okay. I think we have come to the end of the session, right? Okay. So I'm done. Miss Lee, right? I think I'm done. Right.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Anbuselvan.
Okay. Welcome. Welcome. All right.
Okay. If you guys have any question, you can email to Dr. Anbuselvan or email to KLESF. Then I will pass the question to him. Okay. Okay. A small request from us
Yeah.
before for the participants at the workshop. We have prepared a feedback form. Would appreciate if you guys can fill up the feedback form after the workshop. I have just posted the link at the chat there. And also for student, remember to sign out using the same link that you sign in also, so that we can help you to claim the soft skill point. Okay. So, okay, let's see any question. Okay. I think there's no further question. So just want to thank everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's workshop. We appreciate you being here, spend your time here 2 hours plus with us here. If you would like to know more about KLESF virtual events, please like our Facebook page, KLESF Kuala Lumpur Engineering Science Fair. We will update our virtual events at our page. Okay, so thank you again for joining us today. We will see you next time. Okay, since there is no other questions, so we will end the workshop in a short while.